Morning now. All right. Hello. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining today for our first hashtag BPIACHATS live interview series. Thank you so much for joining. I'm your host, Alexandria Maloney. I'm currently a BPIA board member. And today I have the pleasure of introducing our guest speaker, Miss Jazmian Ohanyere, who is currently a Foreign Service officer with USAID in the sector of agriculture. She is posted in Accra, Ghana, and she works in the West Africa Regional Office, where the focus is on ECOWAS countries. So she has previously worked as a Peace Corps recruiter before joining USAID, and she is an alumnus of Tuskegee University with her MS in agriculture and resource economics and a BS in Animal and Poultry Science. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yes. So in addition to the brief biography that I've shared, you have so many more accomplishments. So could you start by sharing a little more about your journey and what got you interested in the field that you're in?
So thank you so much, Alexandria, for this opportunity. And it's an amazing question. It's actually a long-winded question, but I will try to make it as concise as possible. So I actually went to Tuskegee with the intent of becoming a veterinarian. I wanted to go to a HBCU because I feel like my mother ingrained that into my mind. I'm from Los Angeles, and we don't have, of course, HBCUs in LA. But my mother would talk about it a lot. And while I was in school, I really didn't have a lot of guidance. I didn't get assistance and guidance counselors telling me which way to go. So my mother randomly found out that Tuskegee was one of the best universities for vet medicine. I wanted to be a veterinarian. I literally only got in to Tuskegee and went. And then with me being very non-knowledgeable about the whole process of education, I went there thinking I was starting a vet school. And exactly. And I went in actually as pre-vet. So I have my bachelor's in animal science pre-vet. But while I was in there, the lovely thing that I love about HBCUs is you have professors that naturally become mentors to you. Even if you don't even reach out for it, they reach out for you. And I had quite a few who did that to me. And one, he knew that I wanted to go to the vet school. So he had me do a summer program at the vet school that gave me an idea what my first year would be like. And in that program, I realized I didn't want to be a veterinarian. At that point, I was like, uh-oh, so what do I do now? And so at my school, so I was like, I want to still work with animals, but I want to go into the business because I was interested in business. And so my school had Ag Econ program. And so I applied. I knew with the teacher who was the head of the program because I took a class with him. It was an elective. I just took it. It seemed okay. And I went back to talk to him, and he said that would be great. I got into the program. It was 3 of us in the program. And I was the only American in the program. This is in Tuskegee, Alabama.
Wow.
Exactly. So it's in the program, it was very small when it started, but now it's grown. When I started, it was myself. It was my friend Suleiman, who was from Sudan when it was just Sudan, and then my friend Peter, who was from Kenya, and then myself from Los Angeles. And then all my professors were from African countries or Caribbean countries. Nobody was from America. And because the program was so small, they would invite us to their house and have different parties, and they would like prepare their different dishes. My main advisor started talking to me about this international sustainable development idea. And I was like, well, what is that? And he always talked about it. And he worked for the World Bank at that point. I didn't know what the World Bank was. He worked there for over 30 years, retired, and came to work at Tuskegee. And he was my advisor. And so I was like, and so he just gave me like a lot of information. I was able to do an internship with USAID in 2006. And from that internship, I was like, yeah, I can see myself living in a lot of different places and doing this as a career. Like, of course I do. And so like, that's really how I got to where I am today. It took 10 years to get back to that. But yeah, that was the beginning of, yes, I want to be in foreign service.
Okay. So what does a typical day in the life of a foreign service officer, specifically for someone who works in the development space, what does that look like? Granted, you can also share what it's like right now under these current circumstances, but also in just a general workday, what does that look like for you?
So every workday is so different for everybody, of course. But with me being in and being in agriculture, and also ours is food security and our focus, but then also working at a regional level, we work different than a national level. So at the regional level, we work at policy level. So ECOWAS is an organization that is a group of 19 African countries that work together that look for the better economic development of West Africa. And so they work on different policies, they work on in all different areas, but we work specifically in agriculture. So we focus on inputs like fertilizers, seeds, like improved seeds, things of that sort. I also work a lot in trade. Like I said, business is my I'm an ag economist. So I'm more interested in trade, even though I am ag. I have a big focus in agricultural trade and agricultural products being traded at free trade. Free trade is really my focus, and that goes along with working with USAID. I came into this to help people help themselves. So I wanted people to be able to sell their resources, sell the resources that they have here for a free price, and not being like getting pennies when it's worth hundreds, you know? So trade is a big thing for what I work on. And so with that, I work with these different organizations to work on the policies that trickle down to the national level, and then that hopefully goes down to the grassroots level. So it's like a higher, it's kind of boring because you're working a lot on policy, and policy not always is that fun and is very bureaucratic. But I do have some projects that I'm working on right now that really get me excited. I'm working on a project that is called Local Works. And with Local Works, it's a great project and a great program because it allows like the local business. What we're focusing on is local businesses becoming better in their capacity building and becoming better in their business practices so that they can be more self-sustainable for longer term and not just short term, like short view, because a lot of times people look at the short view, 5 years, but something that can go off for 30 years. So I'm working on a project like that where it's really different because a lot of the programs that we do with USAID are with the same organizations for long periods of time. But with this project with Local Works, we're looking to get new partners. We're looking to get people who haven't necessarily worked with us, but are looking for a long-term sustainable growth. So I like that.
I'd also like to quickly shout out, I see a few of our BPIA board members on, Earl, Cal, and Vannery, so I'm just shouting them out really quickly. Someone had submitted a question in the comments that I'm going to go ahead and read, and for anyone else who also has questions, feel free to drop them in the comment box. So this question is from Wandering with Intent, and They're asking, can you share? Oh, Sandalay's here too, another board member. Oh, that's sorry, I didn't know your Instagram handle name. Hi, Sandalay. This is a question from one of our board members. Can you share your view on COVID-related export bans and disruptions to the supply chains, especially as it relates to food security?
In terms of COVID, like the problem right now and how everything is being broken down. Okay,
Right.
that's a great
question. Or
question.
how that's affecting you all's work.
Yeah, it's really affecting. So actually, what's happening now is like we have a task force that is implemented in place to find out exactly like what are the main problems that are happening on the ground. A small handicap that we have for that is because everything that we're doing right now is from our homes. Nobody is out, just like in the States. Here, I've been in my house working for the last 4 weeks. So a lot of the things that we're doing is we're having virtual meetings and we're getting updates from our partners. Like recently, ECOWAS had a meeting to update in terms of what are the countries experiencing and what are their main problems. However, and some of the main problems fall into, like with the food chain, is the borders. A lot of the borders are closed because of trying to reduce the problems of COVID, the expansion of COVID. And that affects, not only does it affect the food chain, it affects every level, because you're not able to get the food across the borders. And that already is a very difficult thing. Just the interregional trade is very difficult in Africa. It's very expensive to get things around. So in terms of that is really affecting what we're doing. So what we're having at USAID right now is we are determining what are the highest priorities, what needs to be focused on the most at this point, and submitting concept notes or notes for those different problems to get additional funding to have a focus on that. So right now, because the thing is, the problem is what we've noticed from recently with our communications with ECOWAS, which is our regional partner, is a lot of the problems that they are suggesting are the problems that they have on a regular basis. So it's, it's always been a problem with trade. It's always been a problem with interregional trade. It's been a consistent problem with having enough seed or fertilizer at the right times for people to plant for the planting season. People being able to get the resources that they need. And at this point right now, because here in Ghana, like I said, I've been home for 4 weeks, but Ghana has been locked down for 3 weeks, where people are supposed to just stay at home. So you just Ghana, for example, but this is happening in a lot of countries in West Africa. So things are not being able to be moved easily. So that slows down. This is going into the rainy season fairly soon. So it slows down people preparing for the food, preparing for their seasons of planting and producing. And then, so COVID overall, it's not just affecting, it's definitely a pandemic that needs to be addressed, but it has definitely stopped life. And it has definitely stopped how people are functioning and how people are living effectively. And it has completely changed the way that we're doing work. The bit that I think that a lot of people are focusing on is getting kits in terms of testing for COVID, so a lot of the money that they're focusing on right now is not towards agriculture. It's a little bit more towards global health. So they're focusing more on health. That is a big focus. Agriculture is always going to be a problem. It's something that needs to be addressed. But right now, because COVID is so strong, it's really taking the focus away from it and putting that focus strongly on health.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. My next question was going to be what current issues and trends are in the field that we should be aware of. So you answered that very clearly. And we have one message from Sandalay, great perspectives. Thank you. And then I'd also like to shout out CSADOSD, which is the Civil Service Association for the State Department, who has also just dropped to follow COVID in the U.S. as some follow up on COVID in the U.S. as some farmers with crops that have been destroyed, so that the topics that you're discussing are also relevant and happening in the U.S. as well for our agricultural business. So the next question that I wanted to ask you was more a introspective question reflecting on your career path and your journey. And the question is there anything that you know now that you wish you knew when you first started the career path?
That's a great question. I would think even dialing even further back in my career, there are a couple of things that are very important. And one of those things is language.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I had a major handicap because never through high school, through college, at any point did I take any second language. English was my primary and only language. And I think if I knew maybe earlier on that I was going to be interested in something more, or just in general, nowadays it's a global world.
Right.
I probably should have been looking into language more, but I spent almost 2.5 years, 3 years working on French with this job.
Mm-hmm.
Because here, like I said, I'm regional, and it is required for my position to speak French. And we have testing with the State Department. A lot of things that we do is through the State Department. USAID is its own agency. However, a lot of the things we do is through State Department. So we use their training facility. And that training facility is a little harsh when it comes to French. And I really wish that I just had a little bit of foundation in terms of a language. And I think that that would have helped me in the beginning of my service. But I really don't think that that set me back. I guess another thing that it set me back because I literally took off work for a year and just focused on French. So it did. So before, let me go back a bit. Before I even came to Post, I was in French for about 10 months, and I did not pass the test. Then I came to Post, was working and studying French, still didn't pass the test. They took me out, and for a whole year, for the most part, I studied French. And so it was pretty brutal because at that whole point, you're thinking, is my job safe? Because language is a part of getting tenure for the and keeping your position. So if you don't have the language, you can't get tenure and you can't keep your job, and you literally only have 5 years to get tenure. And so if you don't have it, you don't keep the job. So it's important. Another thing that I think is important to know, for me, is to know who you are and to stay true to that. Because for me, in this field, there are quite a bit of things that I don't necessarily agree with, but I have to focus on my main goal and the reason why I started this job. And like I stated earlier, like I came into this because I wanted to help people help themselves. And I have to stick to that, and I have to stick to the knowledge of knowing that, you know, there might be some things that are a big focus of the U.S. government. You are a representative of the U.S. government at all times, even when you don't want to be.
Right.
And even when there's things that you're questioning of your own government, you are still representing the U.S. and you have to be as democratic as possible in your responses and in your work and what you do. And that is something that, I mean, it naturally comes with the position. You learn how to fight battles that need to be fought and battles that don't need to be fought. Verbally, you just do it a different way. And so for me, like I said, the biggest thing is staying true to my values and to my morals and what I feel is right. There's some things, I mean, and that's with life. I mean, because there are plenty of things in life where you're just like, yeah, I'm not, that doesn't seem right, or it's not aligned with the way that I vibrate or the way that I work. And so for me, that's been something that I've had to hold strong to. But I love my job. I love I love my job.
And you've also done a lot of work in terms of like diversity and inclusion work within these agencies, bringing in new talent and diverse talent. It actually connects to one question that one of our viewers, I think that's actually Byron Williams who asked this, but his question is, what agricultural associations have you been involved with and or reach out to generate interest in international service among Black communities? So shout out to Byron, who's one of our future, who's a guest speaker coming.
That's a hard question, because that means I have to think really hard. And actually, I have not. I mean, truthfully, the only organization I can think of off the top of my head is MANARS. And so I know with MANARS, I do not know what the acronym means, so I cannot give that to you. They had it at Tuskegee when I was there, when I was in undergrad and pre-vet. I was a part of that. But I haven't. So the way that I've worked around this in terms of when I was a recruiter for Peace Corps, and my focus was, because the reason why I even worked for Peace Corps, because with me, if I have a goal, I set it, I hit it. I do whatever is possible to get to that goal, right? And that the goal that I had in 2006 when I interned for USAID was to work as a Foreign Service officer. It took me 10 years to get to that. However, my goal was still there. The problem was, in the midst of that, I graduated from graduate school, wanted to get into international development. It was no one trying to hire me, no matter how qualified I was. They would say that I needed to have overseas experience. And how can I get the experience if you don't allow me to have the job? I don't know how that works. And so what happened was, going back to one of my colleagues who I was interning with at USAID in 2006. She told me that she was going to go to Peace Corps, and it was a place, something that I had never heard of in my life. Like, I was like, what is that? What are you doing? What does that mean? And it didn't even register in my mind, because I was like, whatever. And so when I was applying for these jobs and it wasn't working, I was like, let me call her and ask her about that program. So I asked her about the program, and like I said, if I set a goal, it's over. Like, that's where my focus is. That's what happens. I was bartending because I was already struggling with bartending out of grad school for almost 2 years. And like, how are you still bartending and you have these degrees? And so I was like, man, I quit my job. I applied. I sat on my computer for 8 hours, did my application for Peace Corps, quit my job the next day, and said, I'm about to go overseas.
Wow.
And so within 4 months, I was actually in Malawi, which is where I served as a Peace Corps volunteer. And the problem that I dealt with the most in Malawi was being one of 150 volunteers, but one of 5 Black volunteers.
Wow.
So 150 volunteers in the country, because you only have 5 people, not even just 5 people, it's 5 Black people. That's what you got as your minority quota. So I was just like, this can't be right. Like, this is not life. Like, this is not America. America doesn't look like this. This is where, I mean, like in the Midwest, maybe. Like certain places there. So I was like, no, this isn't right. So did my service, ran into big problems with my country director where he mistaken me for a Malawian, and I ended up getting, because I was sitting in the car at the time with somebody I was in the process of dating, and he like called the State Department police on us, and they had a gun in our face and a stick. And I don't know what the thing is with the stick, but they used it a lot while I was in Malawi. So,
like the gun wasn't enough.
Okay. You already have the gun. Like what is the stick? So they have it, and then the because we were sitting in front of what they had as a transit house, and they came and had these guns in our face, and he was like, this is a diplomatic house. I was like, well, I'm staying in this house. I got out the car, I was so mad.
Whoa.
I got out the car, I was so mad. I was like, well, I am a diplomat if you saying that the people staying in this house, because I'm staying in this house, and I don't think that is acceptable for you to be putting this gun and the stick in mine and my friend's face, right? And the reason why I knew was our country director was because he was dropping his daughter off to hang out with the Peace Corps volunteers at the transit house, right? And nobody was messing with us until he came and left, right? And so the next day I was so upset. I told some other volunteers who were there with me, and they were like, you should address it. So I got, dressed up in my Peace Corps, because I was a Peace Corps volunteer, but not I don't know some of these Peace Corps volunteers. I don't have to be dirty on a regular basis. I mean, I can do my service, be on the ground and really integrate with my community, but that does not mean I have to be dirty. So anyway, I put on the best that I had while I was in service. I went and set up a meeting. I even set up a meeting with him and told him how I felt about him calling the police on us. That turned into me working with a couple of people who then finished their service and continuing on a path of starting a diversity committee, which actually myself personally, because I was the only one at a certain point who was in the committee, going to trainings and talking to people about diversity, the importance of diversity, being allies for other people who are in these situations, just different trainings with different activities. And so I did that for about a year and a half before I finished my service. Made sure that it was in the bylaws of the for the volunteers that it had to be a diversity committee in Malawi, and then make sure that they sat on the board of volunteers. And so I made sure those things happened, and then of course I left, and I think it is still in place. I mean, it's in the bylaws. I hope so. I went to Peace Corps 2009 to 2011, so it's been a little while. But then after that, like when I was finishing up my service, I applied for two things. I applied for a foreign service officer, of course, and then I also applied for a recruiter. And I applied for a recruiter because I said that I wanted the opportunity to let people like me know that this is something that you can do. It doesn't mean that it's something you have to do, but at least know that this is an option. Like you have this option to do this. If you want to do it, you can do it. But if you don't, life goes on. But at least have that option that people like Caucasians or white Americans have known their whole life. Whereas me, not knowing, but very highly qualified for this Peace Corps volunteer. So, and it opens a lot of doors depending on which directions you want to go to. So I became a recruiter. I did that. A lot of my focus, anybody who showed a little interest of color, I would hold them tight, just like I did when I was working in the diversity. I would hold them tight and be like, look, you can do this. It's going to be a struggle, but 2 years is a blink of the eye, I promise you. And I even did that when I transitioned out of the recruiter position and moved into a placement officer, where I was choosing the volunteers that were going to the countries. And in that position, I made sure that we had a committee that focused on diversity. And in that committee was needed because a lot of my colleagues would go through like a list of different applicants and look at them with 4.0s, a lot of volunteer experience, you know, they have the money to be able to go to school and volunteer. Whereas you have people who have a 3.6. They worked their whole time in college. They came from a community that was adverse. They had adversities their whole entire life. They literally have been through everything, which are the most resourceful people that you would probably want in Peace Corps. And you don't choose them because they don't have a 4.0. And you, and these are people usually is minorities, because minorities, you know, they have a little bit more of a struggle than some other people, you know, than our counterparts. So with that, I made sure that people were choosing groups or cohorts that were all inclusive, are representatives of America. And so that was a big thing that I did also. So I don't know what you asked me, but I took you all the way around.
Well, we appreciate the perspective and you sharing your honest and candid experiences, you know, both within the Peace Corps space and the USAID space, and that you know, have proven your value in that space and the importance of having more diverse talent in these particular spaces where they are, you know, organizations representing the United States abroad. So I appreciate that response from you. We have one more question from someone here in the comments. It's from Earl Yates, who's one of our BPI board members. And his question is in relation to your work in relation to the COVID pandemic experience right now. Do you see it leading to the incorporation of more public health components into the social and economic development projects that you all are doing?
That's a great question, and I already see that happening. Recently here in Ghana, one of my colleagues who works in power, or energy, he was sharing with our office like hand washing station where they have here in Ghana. It's a hand washing station which uses a oil can. So the oil cans, like recycled oil cans, and it's a hand washing station that first the water comes out. The soap comes out, and then you waits like 20 seconds, and then you can wash your hands. And so that is something that is being put, like a lot of places, people are looking into that. And I do see a lot of change coming because of COVID. I mean, I see the change happening just in the world in general, just all the shifts that we've made so far. It's no way that we're going to go back to how we originally were. But in the agriculture field, I really hope that I don't know how much health focus can be incorporated into agriculture depending on, I guess the different types of I'm really trying to think of this question. So
or maybe there are ways that you see some public health related initiatives or any opportunities in the work that you're doing that public health things may be incorporated, or if not, because I know it's not your exact specific area that you work on, you know, public health is generally separate from agriculture, but.
Right. One thing I am working on in agriculture is nutrition. So I'm working on a nutrition project that has a focus on malnutrition in the region. And with that, we're actually deciding on exactly what project we want to work on in terms of that, with the funding that we have, which is minimal in comparison to other projects in general. But I don't know. It was a focus of doing something on surveillance, like getting an idea of what people are eating at the household level. And I don't know, with COVID, I feel like everything is going to change. So that with the nutrition, I'm sure people are going to start overly, like cleaning their fruits and vegetables. I don't know. I know that this is,
right.
I mean, it's just, it's like everything is going to change the way that people function, the way that there are already policies in place for trade, like in, for cytotary and phytosanitary, for trade and phytosanitary and phytosanitary
okay.
protocol that has to be met in order for things to be traded into other countries. Like those are already things that have to be, I feel like those are going to be up, which in some cases it's really difficult in some developing countries to meet the criteria of what is needed for something to trade to like the States or to Europe. So I'm thinking those levels are going to be increased because people are going, because everything is going to be extra, it has going to be extra sanitary, extra clean, extra, please don't pass, which happens all the time, passing pests to other regions, which can cause an epidemic of pests infesting crops, infesting land. So there are quite a few things that can happen that will change. That's a great question. I'm sure, I mean, everything has changed already. So I just hope that people still continue to live, because I've noticed a lot of people living in fear. And I feel like when you vibrate in fear, it's easier to get sick and it's easier to be unhealthy. And not only unhealthy your body, but your mind. When your mind controls everything, like it controls your system, it controls everything. And right now, if people consistently just live in fear, like we are not going to be able to function effectively as beings. I do, like I said, I think that everything will change in terms of COVID, but I hope it doesn't get to a point where we don't allow our bodies to function as they should, which is like our immune system being able to fight off the things that it's supposed to fight off, to make it a strong immune system and to make it a viable immune system.
Right.
I really hope, I know things will change, but I hope that people embrace the importance of taking control of their bodies, their health, their that the world is not over if you get sick, like if you get a cold. Like your body is created to heal itself, and if you give it the right things that it needs, like fruits and vegetables and healthy diets, healthy lifestyles, then it can heal itself better than if you live in fear, you eat rubbish, and you talk crazy. Like it doesn't allow your body to have the tools that it needs to heal itself. So great question, but COVID is taking over life. It's taking over.
And I think that it's causing a lot of agencies and organizations to reassess, one, how they do business, but also what is that going to look like in the future, right? Because as this is happening, all us, a variety of agencies, but particularly the foreign affairs agencies, are learning. This is a learning time for these agencies and for the individuals working in, to see how can we prevent, particular things that we do have that we have in control of. How can we prevent those things from happening, or how can we prepare ourselves and prepare the communities and the demographics that we serve and work with for this in the future?
Absolutely. And that's, I mean, I feel like that's exactly what we're doing right now. Like almost every day we have a different meeting. We want to know the different stats of the different organizations, what's happening with them, like the partners that we're partnering with, what is the status that they have on the ground level, like what actually needs to be done right now. So it is different of how we are functioning. We are having all these meetings. We are really trying to find ways to deal with the problem that is at hand. But it's definitely changing the way that we do work. But I feel like things change almost every 10 years, like a chip.
Right. So my final question for you is geared especially towards the students and the young people that may be listening or may be interested in this particular career path. And it is, what advice would you give to someone who is interested in the particular job that you're doing, as well as interested in pursuing careers in this field? So are there different things someone should be involved with, or reading on, or researching, or learning more about, or any resources that you're aware of?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it's a great question. So the thing is with foreign service, which I learned after I got into foreign service almost, is there's so many different types of foreign service. So like myself, so they say there's 3 pillars in foreign service, or in development, and in foreign service. So they say defense, and then they say defense, diplomacy, and development. And so within those, there are a lot of different organizations. You have USDA, which has a foreign agricultural service. You have USAID, which has foreign service. You have state departments. You have commerce. You have DOD. Like, it's a lot. It's more. And actually, now that I'm overseas, I'm seeing more and more people from different organizations here. So a lot of organizations have international component. So for me, for people interested, like, find out exactly which area of foreign service that you're interested in. For me, I actually applied for USDA and for USAID. And in applying for USDA, I realized that I didn't only want to focus on trade, that development was more of a love for me than just only focusing on trade. So, so from learning that, it helped me to learn more about USAID as a whole, reaching back to people that I interned with, and seeing if they can connect me with other people to contact and have conversations with, any information that they had for me. If I didn't have, I used that a lot. I made really good friends with some of the leadership while I was in Peace Corps. So when I was applying, I sent my resume to them and asked them to help me with that. I really wanted to make sure what I was getting into was something I wanted. So I did talk to quite a lot of people. When I started in foreign service, this is a personal thing. When I started in foreign service, it was something that I had to really think about, because the way life is set up now, it's not a lot of situations where women are able to go into foreign service and have healthy, loving marriages and lifestyles, because in foreign service is different. I'm going to move to a different country every depending on the country, 2 to 4 years. So what kind of spouse will I find that will be able to move with me like that? So those are questions that I had for people, and I wanted to ask questions about that. I wanted to be as knowledgeable, but everybody's situation is so different, so you have to take everything with a grain of salt and just use your own knowledge. On that, if people are interested in USAID is actually hiring new officers now on USAJobs.gov. There, almost every position that we have for USAID is up and posted. Every single area, agriculture, contracts, executive officer, health, everything that we have is up and available, so people could actually apply and become officers. It's not only that, so for being an officer, you have to have what qualifies you for officer, and those things are at least 18 months overseas. You can have a foreign language. It's not mandatory to have a foreign language. Depending on the position you have to have experience in that area. And then you have to have a master's degree for USAID. For State Department, you don't need a master's degree. A way of getting away from having a master's degree with USAID is we have a paying fellows program. a fellowship program. And with the Paynes Fellowship Program is for minorities. And with that Paynes Fellowship Program, USAID like supplements the graduate costs. I think they pay the majority of the graduate costs. And the loveliness also about Payne Fellowship is for the summer between the 2 years of the graduate program, that fellow spends it overseas at a post. So you get a little experience of what it would be like in foreign service. And then as soon as they graduate, they go straight into foreign service. So it's a nice way to go straight into foreign service if that's what you want. But with that, I think you do need to have some type of overseas experience to qualify for that program as well. Yeah, I think just be really knowledgeable of the path that you want. Your path might change, and that's okay. Be flexible. You definitely need to be flexible, and you need to be patient. This is bureaucracy. You're looking to work for the United States government. The United States government, the bureaucracy that happens within the United States government, sometimes it's like it tests my patience. Like my patience is at another level, but with some of the things that happen here, it's just like, really? so just definitely be patient. The application process is long for USAID. I would say if you don't, sorry, my phone's going down. But if you don't get it right away, apply again. I applied twice for this position. Like I said, I applied when I finished Peace Corps, and I did not get it then. And then I applied literally almost 4 years later, and I did get it. So if this is what you want, be persistent. Definitely be persistent through the application process if you're going through the application process, because I think my persistence made my process a little bit shorter, because it was already a year. Like to really, like to get an offer and be like, yes, I'm out. I'm finished with this job. It's like, I'm just so ready. Like I'm ready to go to like my job that I really want, and be like, yes, I'm done. And then like I literally got a conditional offer like in April. I think it was like April or March. It was like, yeah, April of when I started, April 2015, right? And then I didn't actually get the official until April 2016. It was a whole year of waiting because OPM. It was breached, and so like that was in the process of my security clearance. Okay. That was during my security clearance. So like they had to like start over, they had all this backup, and I was just like So patience is important. Being persistent, reaching out to people. Like even if, I mean, truthfully for me, like people don't even have to know me that well. If they're of color, not like, I don't see anything wrong with trying to help our fellow person out. Like so many different other groups do it all the time, and for some reason for people feel bad about saying that I'm doing this for my people. Like it's not like I'm excluding other people, but if somebody reaches out to me and they are of color and they see that they're in the process of a struggle, I'm gonna be like, yeah, girl, come on, or yeah, dude, come on, send me your information. I looked at so many resumes working at Peace Corps. I can look at a resume real nice, real quick. And so it's like, I am here. If I can connect you with people, I'm so happy to do that. I connect people with people all the time. I mean, and it's just, we need to be more of a family instead of a division. And that's what we've been too long. And that needs to stop. And so for me, find a good person that's going to have your back, and have faith in yourself. Yeah.
Ms. Jazmian, thank you so much for speaking to us and being our first guest speaker of the BPIACHATS series. For those listening, please follow Jazmain. If you look in the flyer on our Instagram page, you can find her social media there, or her handles. And please, we look forward to seeing you all at our future BPIACHAT. So thank you guys for joining, and have a great day. Thank you, Jazmian. All
Thank
right.
you so
Bye.
much. Bye-bye.